Good evening. Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Africa Communications Leadership Series. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Daniela Harrison. I'm very excited to have today with us, coming from Lagos, Nigeria, Ayeni Adekunle, the founder and CEO of Black House Media. Ayeni is a journalist, writer, and PR expert with over 20 years of experience, and he will be speaking to us today on the future of PR in the age of social media, fake news, and global crises. So thank you, Ayeni, for your time. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever part of the world you are. But good evening from Lagos, Nigeria. Okay, so are we good to go?
Yes, we're good to go.
Okay, good. So I'll be speaking with you tonight on the future of PR in this age. The world is at a very, very interesting point as I speak with you. Today, we've all followed the news from Libya about, to call it what it is, slave trade. We all know what's happening with fake news. We know what's happening with terrorism, and so much is happening across the world. Public relations is about the truth, and is about a good story. Now, everyone loves a good story. I like to approach this session from a storytelling perspective. Whether you're talking about The Godfather, or you're talking about Titanic, whether you're talking about the story of Romeo and Juliet, the story of Jesus Christ, the story of Muhammad, everyone loves a well put together story. From one generation to the other, we've preserved legend, we've preserved history and all of that through storytelling. But, not every story has the same ending. Some have a happy ending, like the story of Cinderella. And some, like Titanic, as we all know, do not actually have a happy ending. Now, public relations in this age, from where we are coming from and where we are and where we are going to, will we have a good ending or a happy ending? Especially in the context of the role that we have to play in building communities, in building governments, in building organizations, and in building brands. But let me bore you a bit, Let's take a step backward. This is where PR is coming from. I assume you all can see my screen. You know the story of African town criers, which was at the time a very, very creative means of kings and communities to engage with their subjects. I'm Yoruba, I'm from Ondo State. We've read the story of Aroko, But what most people from different parts of the world would perhaps be able to connect with notice boards, newspapers, and town hall meetings and all of that, This were the different ways, of course there are more, that public relations helped governments, kingdoms, communities engage with their publics. And it seems a bit boring now, right? But now, plot twist, a couple of years down the line, this is where we are. Technology has changed our practice forever. The same technology that appears to fuel the dissemination of crises, of hatred, of cyberbullying, and all of that, has provided a very, very important twist for the work that we do. For the first time in the history of mankind, it appears that there is an invention that everybody would use, which is the mobile phone. Now, combine the mobile phone and the internet, you find that there is almost no limit, absolutely actually no limit to what is possible. If you now take it to our job of telling stories, of helping brands, organizations, government, communities engage with their stakeholders and advise them on how to get the best out of this, you will see that it appears that we have an opportunity to tell a very great story. Now, look at the monochrome picture on the left and look at this stylish fab photo on the right. You may recognize some faces in the second photo. The photo from the left represents where we are coming from the 50s and 60s and 70s. If you were to look at recent times, today it looks boring and dated and old and very, 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 very old school, to use that term. But I assure you, at the time, this was what was fab. It was cool. It looks to me like today, the people we've cast to do the work of PR in this very, very critical age belong to this monochrome set. Meanwhile, the lead actors that we need today are these guys on the right. And look at it not just from a fashion perspective, but look at it very, very completely from knowledge, from day-to-day lifestyle, from the psychology and of today's practitioner. Put the left against the right. Now, what are the right equipment to use today Twitter is huge, Facebook is huge, Instagram is huge, Snapchat is growing, there's WhatsApp and Telegram and what have you. The world of technology are talking about artificial intelligence and all of that. The equipment, what are the tools that we need to communicate, to engage, to practice today? Be it to tell stories, be it to measure, be it to engage communities, be it to analyze today. You wouldn't have thought in the age of the monochrome gentleman that we need to think about coding in public relations, or that Photoshop and all sorts of other tools will be an important use to us. Or if you go to all the app stores, from the Google Play Store to the Apple Store, and you see all the opportunities that exist from a tool perspective in terms of what we can borrow, what we can exploit, what we can explore to do great work in telling stories. Don't forget. If we were to get the right equipment, if we were to cast the right character, who are the crew members? Think of this from a talent perspective. Who are the crew members that we need to tell this great story, to get this great movie like the Titanic, or like Godfather, or like the Bond series and all of that? 15, 20 years ago, most of the people on this list would not have made it. However, today, the barrier has been broken. A huge part of PR is media relations, and there used to be a huge barrier. The media was a huge barrier between brands and organizations and government and the public. You all can see, we all saw what happened in Zimbabwe and how the world followed real time as events unfolded in Zimbabwe. You've seen the US elections, we've all seen crises across the world, we've monitored what happens real time. Today, it would appear to me that as PR people in this very critical age, we need to bring on board psychologists, understand the importance of research at every point of the work that we do. Think about designers. At BHM a couple of years ago, we started to employ front-end designers, animators and all of that, because we understood that the right platforms, the right methods of helping our clients engage with their audiences as at that time required platforms. I was speaking earlier about how PR people, take Nigeria where I live and work, how PR people do not necessarily make the huge list of influencers that you would think of when brands want to engage influencers, when governments want to. In fact, most governments across the country today, at local, at state and federal levels, continue to employ assistants and advisors and all sorts of cabinet members from allied industries and not necessarily from the PR industry. Meanwhile, the PR consultant, the PR executive is the one who is trained in the art of telling stories. Facebook is a storytelling platform. Twitter is a storytelling platform. How have we used these platforms? How have we used them to make sure that we tell such great stories that we become extremely influential on those platforms ourselves? If you look at the most important campaigns across the world this year, remove the word campaign, the most impactful activities that have gone global, the most impactful content that people have engaged with and connected, you will find that most of them are not from PR agencies or from PR practitioners. And the new practice is evolving, where people are describing themselves as social media influencers or social media marketers. Meanwhile, these people are using the storytelling platforms that we should be the experts at. Now, let's come to funding. So let's say we've gotten the right equipment, we've gotten the right tools, we're trying to tell the right kind of story. How are we able to get to a place where we can keep our practice sane, where we can build sustainable and successful businesses and make sure that our practice can stand the test of time? A big problem for PR across the world today, it appears to be similar to what the media industry is facing, is funding, budget and funding. How are we able to attract the right kind of investment? How are we able to build appropriately? How are we able to build not just for time and expertise, but also for creativity? How are we able to demonstrate impact beyond outputs to get to a place where you can look at the big networks from Africa and say a couple of them are PR agencies? I was in Finland a few weeks ago, and the gentleman from China was showing us how the PR industry in China is just a couple of decades old, and when they started, he was just a couple of millions of dollars, but now they are billing billions of dollars. It's a critical period for PR. PR is about the truth. PR is about building engagements and making sure we manage stakeholders well. How are we able to attract the right kind of funding? Let's say we're able to attract the right kind of funding, so we're able to build the kind of practice that governments need now, that organizations need now. We are able to make sure that consumers and publics get the kind of value that they want from the kind of brands and governments and people that they like. So what kind of stories are we going to tell? I'll talk about people, okay? Businesses, governments, brands are about people. A company is not about the building that company is in. A country is not just about the geographical location. It's about the people, places, you know. I was sharing also earlier about how Google was mapping the entire world when nobody was asking for maps. Now platforms, if you find out people move around places, people converge on platforms, be it WhatsApp, be it Telegram, be it Messenger, be it Nairaland, be it Twitter, and all of that. And then when they are there, okay, they are interested in the kind of products that make their lives better. They are interested in the kind of things and products and tools that make their lives better. Some people want to date, some want to communicate, some want education, some want adventure, some want to worship. What are the different products? And then to end with ideas, you find, as I said earlier, that we build in terms of time, we build in terms of expertise, but at the end of the day, you know, the way the advertising industry is seen as the creative industry, when people talk about creative, they say, oh, these are the creative agencies. Meanwhile, the entire marketing communications mix is driven by creativity and innovation. Our job is more about creativity and innovation and being able to use these ideas to drive the bottom line. So what's the essence of conversations? It's not just about trending on Twitter. It's not just about having thousands of posts and impressions and all of that. At the end of the day, you want powerful ideas that can move the needle. So, we've done this fantastic movie. We are so afraid about the direction of the world. We think our profession can help governments behave better. We think our profession can help brands be more responsible. We think we can demonstrate to customers and to citizens and to different publics about how brands can be responsible and are responsible, and that we can make sure that we advise the businesses that we work with on best practices and to be able to demonstrate to those that they care about that they are trustworthy. Now, what lessons will people take away from this fantastic movie, from this fantastic story? I can't overemphasize the importance that truth pays. Truth never hurts. It may appear to hurt on the short run, but it never hurts. Now, what's the point? How do you're at dinner and you're not listening. You are trying to make friends with this person, but it just appears that you just keep talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. We must be able to listen so we can get feedback, so we can analyze and take the right decisions. The people do not understand enough, do not appreciate enough the power that they have when they come together. The idea of PR in the first place was driven from the fact that businesses and governments understood the power of the people. This could be board members, they could be staff members, they could be customers and all of that. You know, the essence of our profession in the first place is to understand the importance and relevance and usefulness of people and make sure that we understand what's important to them within the context of the business. And in fact, we can talk about fake news. We can all harass Facebook and all of that, you know, but we have a role as an industry to play to make sure that our profession is not seen as spin, that we are not spin doctors, to make sure that we are not helping to build damaging brands. Those of you who work actively in PR would have seen the case of Bell Pottinger and the Gupta family from South Africa, and you've seen how that ended. Fantastic precedent for an industry that can't afford for its own credibility to continue to be in question. So just to have an idea that by the time we leave the cinema, but by the time we're done, these are the lessons that are important for people to take away from our story. Okay, so I spoke about people earlier. Companies are about people. Countries are about people. Brands are about people. People matter. Now, conversations matter. PR has moved beyond the age of pitching, beyond the age of email blast and all of that. People are talking about our clients, our businesses on the go, every minute, every day. Are we part of this conversation? And how can we use these conversations to drive the kind of agenda that we want to drive for the brands that we work for? How can we make sure that PR is not part of the problem? We've talked about global crisis. We've talked about fake news. We've talked about the opportunity that social media presents. How can we use our profession to convert what could have been a threat to opportunities for governments, for brands, for ourselves, and all of that. If the world is at the stage it is, it looks like everything is going wrong, from mass shootings to kidnappings and bomb blasts and all of that. How can we use our profession to make sure that we are binding, that we are bringing together, and that we are not partnering with criminals and so-called evil-minded people to destroy our world? How can we tap into the opportunity that social media affords us? There is no longer an excuse that I don't have the right kind of budget. How can we tap into that opportunity to use social media to do a great job? How can we make sure that we are not propagating falsehood and that we are not a part of this fake news epidemic that is almost trying to destroy the entire media industry? So conversations matter. Now, content. You see, I said earlier that now we are employing developers, we are employing coders, we are employing BHM. I think we have about 4 accountants now. It took us a long time to realize the importance of the business part of our business. Sounds stupid, but that's the truth. Most agencies, most practitioners are not there yet. No matter how much we know PR, no matter how much we understand storytelling, if we don't understand the importance of that business part, of the right billing, of cost optimization, of projections and all of that, if you don't have the right kind of auditors. We were 11 2 weeks ago. We only signed Deloitte last year, and I wish we did it 6 years ago. So at the end of the day, critical is to understand that the essence of content and all of that, at the end of the day, you set up a business to make a profit. As an industry, we want to do all of these things and make our world a better place. But if we are not able to do it, then we're going to end up being hired by these same people that we think are trying to ruin the world. And then platforms, just to round up, I cannot say this enough, I feel sad and disappointed that the platforms bringing consumers together now, the platforms where people spend the most of their time on, as at today, none of them is being driven, has been founded, has been built by we that we are the storytellers. Whether platforms where people go to watch movies, or where people go to look for partners, or where people go to while away time and all of that, And it may not necessarily be our fault that much that we are not building the platforms, but we need to be at the forefront of using these platforms to tell great stories and to make meaning for ourselves, for those on those platforms, the people, and for those that we work for. I think I've done about 20 minutes plus of just trying to introduce you to this topic. I'm going to be available to take questions for another couple of minutes, if that's fine by you. Thank you. Do I have you?
Thank you so much, Ayeni.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the floor is open for questions. So you can put your questions, you can write down your questions in the chat box. But one of the things that I wanted to ask, first of all, you mentioned that PR professionals should think in terms of products,
yes.
And that we don't think in terms of products, that we think in terms of hours or in terms of billings and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit more about this and maybe share some more ideas about like how do we evolve and start to think more, I suppose, more modernly?
Okay, so I'll use the banks. The idea of banking ab initio was to take money or resources from where there's excess, have it in hold, and then distribute it to where there's shortfall, right? Now, but what the banks have done, they've been able to build different products. They have products for students, early savers, they are for market women, they are for small businesses, they have all of that. They've been able to structure their offerings in such a way that they can have different value for different customers. That's number one. And then they've been able to demonstrate value according to each product. Now that's the low base to think at it. And the consulting firms do it a lot. I've studied Deloitte especially. You will see all sorts of practice areas in the same firm. They will tell you, no, this one is tax. This is a different product. This is how it works. They will tell you this one is audit. This one is business advisory, We need to be able to understand that media training is a product that we can build along a vertical, as well as press office, as well as videos, as well as so many things, as well as events. What happens then is that you may have 25 clients coming to you for different things. What we do today is that our work has almost been reduced to media relations and press agentry. So that's the low base to think about. The second thing is to now begin to think that the experience that we have around storytelling, if we are great writers, if you are employing developers, if you are employing business people, what are the things that we can roll out? You will find that at the end of the day, okay, not every client needs to put us on a retainership. Not every PR staff has to be in-house. How about, and I'll give you an idea of what brought about something that we've been working on for the past year, a platform called Placard, whose idea is there are so many social media influencers who are not getting business. There are so many bloggers who are not making revenue because the revenue from AdSense has collapsed seriously. There are so many people who have value to add with their Instagram handles and Twitter and all of them on one side. And then there are so many brands on this other side who are trying to get value. People making shoes, people selling hair, people selling makeup kits, people with event venues who don't have a budget to hire an agency. So we built Placard as a platform to connect these guys to these guys. That's a product. So, and imagine all sorts of products that we can think of and create. At the end of the day, Press Office alone is a product that an agency can wrap technology around and offer to brands, whether for free or for a token per month. There are so many of these things. Agencies in the US, to be fair to them, a couple of them are doing it. But I look at Africa and I say, until we begin to be creative around how we approach these things, where marketing budgets are going, retainerships are going to get increasingly cut. But Nigeria has over 140 million young people. And we are a hugely SME-based economy. How do we get to a place where we can operate a product or a business model that can let you monetize 10% of that 140 million people, which is 14 million people, by just one product or one service? How do we get to a place where we have this suite of different products that we are no longer desperate to collect peanuts from clients, or that we're able to solve problems across industries based on the combined skills that we have from here? It's something I've been speaking about since 2014 and something we started experimenting with at BHM since 2015. I think it holds a huge future for us. If we don't do it, what is going to happen is that technology will continue to move ahead. It will continue to disrupt our practice. If we don't catch up even with what we have now, everybody is talking about artificial intelligence. It will come to a time where all the work that we do for clients, whether it's media monitoring, whether it's measurements, whether it's news release pitching and all of that, everything will be done by just one app on an Android phone or on an iPhone. And what companies will need to do, like the way accountants use Sage, like the way the HR guys use all the softwares and all of that, all people will need to do is just download just one software on their laptop and on their phones, and they will be able to access all these things on the go. That's the future that we see, and that's what we're building towards.
Wow, that is super interesting. Very, very insightful, and really lots of things to think about. I have another question. Now, one of the findings from your from the PR in Nigeria report showed that a lot of PR agencies or consultancies were essentially sort of one-man shows. Yeah. And we're not cannot pay staff or regularly, or are not big. And what do you see in terms of the trends? Do you see more of a trend towards, or do you think that we need to go towards a model where we sort of merge? Because you spoke about the PR businesses in China and how 3 of them are listed on the stock exchange. Are we going towards a future where you have some of these? Is there value in mergers for a lot of these PR agencies, or, are we, or do we continue as is? How much impact really can sort of the one-man businesses have within our markets?
So a couple of things I've recommended in all the places I've spoken and in all the research that we've done since 2014. A couple of things that we found. One, mergers and acquisitions are an absolute necessary if we are to build the businesses that can stand the test of time, businesses that can go global. We must be able to attract the right kind of revenue We must be able to manage resources well and make good profits. We must be able to work for clients across the Africa sub-region. So it's and to be able to attract the right kind of clients, to be able to build well, you've got to have a huge resource. If we're as regulated as banking is, imagine if you say you can't run a PR agency if you don't have a certain base. The problem is that anybody can carry their briefcase tomorrow and start their own agency. Whilst there's nothing wrong with that, we are now in a place where it appears that there are just agencies everywhere. Now, the regulation locally here is not as firm and robust as it should be. Two, the clients, a lot of times, cannot justify why should they commit these huge budgets to PR. A lot of clients here today are committing more budgets to so-called digital marketing as compared to PR. What we found from the surveys that we've done, all the people that we spoke with, is that the reason agencies are struggling, the reason it seems that the companies are not growing as they should, is that we're not able to attract the right kind of talent. When we attract them, we're not able to retain them. As a result of that, we're not able to do amazing work that can make clients afraid when we take a walk. If you keep running the client retainership and brief model, what do you do when 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients? If you check across industries from banking to telecommunications to FMCGs, you will see marketing budgets continue to be cut increasingly. We're researching that now against PR Report 2017. You will see next year when we bring out the report how drastic marketing budgets for major companies are being cut. So if budgets continue to go down from the big spenders, how do we move to the 140 million people that we have in one country alone? How do we reshape our practice in such a way that we can make sure that we can use this combined set of skills that we have to get value and to build the kind of businesses that we desire and that we deserve? Are you there?
Great. Yes. That's really insightful. And just, I don't know, just if you could share a little bit more information, just more on this attracting funding, right? How we can begin to position ourselves as PR agencies in a way that, yes, we're positioned to attract the right kind of funding. You spoke earlier about how you have about 4 accountants and how you started to operate BHM as a business and to think from that business point of view. Is this something? Could you please speak to this?
I think the first thing we need to realize at the end of the day is that what are we looking for? So what do investors seek before making a decision on a prospect? And if I want to merge with another company, what are those things that I look at? Everybody wants to be sure about your health. Everyone wants to be sure about the health of the business. Everybody wants to understand what the future of not just the business, but of the industry is. What's the future of that particular business? What's the future and what's the future prospect of that industry? What do your books look like? The first thing we need to do is to make sure that we put our house in order. So before mergers and acquisitions can happen, before we can attract the right kind of investment, we must first position ourselves to be attractive. It's almost like you are going on a date with someone that you think you'd like to go out with you. You won't leave your house without having your bath. You won't leave your house without putting on your perfume and all of that. Or you are going for a job interview. Most people appear like, I see applicants all the time. They come for a job interview, they are well put together, they are speaking their phone, and then about 3 months into the job, they are speaking pidgin and all of that. And people put their best foot forward when it's like a first date. So I'd like to liken it to that. To be able to attract funding, we must be able to show promise. This product, I'll give an example, and I shared this 2 years ago plus when we launched our digital agency ID Africa. Between 2010 and 2012, our company grew by like almost 1,000% or more. And I like to share stuff like that. At that point, I shared that we had crossed the $1 million mark at that time. And I plotted the graph of some of the things I thought we did right and some of the things I thought we could have done better. And we workshopped it and told ourselves this is where we deserve to be 5 years after, which is 2017. And at the end of this year, we're going to look at our books and say, where are we going to? When we clocked 10 November last year, we did a 10-year roadmap. We've spent the first 10 years trying to identify our opportunities and our talents and try to build a stable business. What should the next 10 years look like? And we said we want to go global. That we believe that a truly homegrown African company with African trained staff, African clients can actually go across the world and become a global organization. And we plotted what we need to do for the next 10 years to get there. That was part of why we brought the right kind of consultants on board, the kind of talents that we're acquiring, the kind of board we put together, the way we govern our business and all of that. So that when it gets to the point where you are saying, I need X amount to do ABCD, it may be our venture into product. And then a potential investor sees it and they feel comfortable. Once you make your investor comfortable, because nobody wants to throw money away, they look at your past, they look at your present, and they can clearly see a future that they know if only these guys can do ABC, this is where they want to get in. Then they come with you and build that journey with you. What we need to do is to approach our businesses as if we are heavily regulated the way the way the financial sector are being regulated. Because we're in the creative space, it looks like people do anyhow. At the end of the day, you want to understand that you are building a business that has stakeholders, a business you want to take public if you want to, a business that if you were to announce an IPO 5, 10, 15 years after, if you were to list on the New York Stock Exchange or on the London Stock Exchange, it would be a big deal. Do we even think it's possible? So from the point of funding, we need to understand our health. Consistently, it's not health for 1 year. We need to understand that people are interested in if the future of your business is promising, but that industry appears to not be growing. Nobody wants to throw money. Everybody is throwing money in tech now because it's easy to see that the world will continue to increase. There will be a time where everybody on planet Earth will potentially have an opportunity to connect to the internet. So you can see the level of investment going into tech. I assure you that Tech Nigeria now, it is likely that the tech industry will attract more interest and more investment than oil and gas, which was not the case 10 years ago, or than banking. I hope I covered that.
Yes, you did. And just finally, last question. You mentioned, this whole issue of attracting clients and markets also across the African continent. And, at ACW, one of the things we are passionate about is economic integration in Africa. And what do you see are some of the challenges to, PR firms and organizations working across borders within the continent? What are some of the challenges, and maybe what are some of the opportunities or some of the ways we can overcome those challenges? Because I genuinely believe that there's, if we're able to even just trade within ourselves, within the continent, that is already a massive market for us. And it's a market we're not exploiting, I think, or leveraging as much as we should.
So, I think that's a good one to look at. So there are, I don't know if you can see my board, but there are macro problems and there are micro problems. The macro problems we cannot escape because they are general problems. It is easier to move goods and people from Africa to Europe than within Africa. Those are macro problems. Africa as an economy, our governments need to solve a lot of problems. Inter-trading, interbanking, haulage and all of that, I see that being fixed. If we fix that, we're going to unlock a world of opportunities. But at the micro level, as an industry, I think increasingly African agencies are collaborating more. My dream is a space where, we've done work in Kenya, we've done work in South Africa, we've done work in Ghana. Just a few months ago now, we've entered into a partnership with a South African agency that is part of a global network. At the end of the day, I see more opportunities like that. Now, the good thing about it is that we are able to build such huge influence, such huge relevance across the continent, so that when agencies come here from Europe and America, they have to work with local networks, which is what happens if you go into Europe or if you go into America from Africa. So for me, a huge opportunity is that as more and more brands continue to come in here, we have companies and consultancies that have a footprint across the continent. They don't have to have offices there, but they have the right partnerships and the right affiliations across the continent. That's a very, very good plus. The second thing is that as governments begin to fix the macro issues, more and more local businesses are going to go continental. There is an opportunity for us to get continental with this client. If you work for client A in Lagos and they are and they are off to Kenya, or they are off to Accra, or they are off to Pretoria, then it's an opportunity for you to begin to extend your tentacles across the continent. However, the challenge there is that we must also understand to not spread too fast and not grow too fast. So it's a huge and nice thing to dream, to go global and all of that, But the caution there is that I've seen businesses suffer from going into a lot of African countries or going into other environments where they probably don't understand well or they were not ready for. The part of our business are like for us to fix before we begin to try to actualize that ambition is actually the finance advisory part. There's a lot of work that accountants need to do for us. So at the CFO level, we need to make a lot of investment to make sure that, because at the end of the day, you find most PR people are not necessarily the best of businessmen, but you don't have to be. We need to invest in a lot of business understanding and talents that understands how different markets work. We need to really understand those things before we make the move. Otherwise, a Lagos-based business or an Abuja-based business or a Cairo-based business will end up shutting down because of one false move. Do you have more questions?
So that was the final question. You've shared so many, I think, important nuggets for us, especially, just thinking about, PR, and thinking about the business angle of it, and especially, the future and what we can do to actually grow our businesses, and evolve them and to make them relevant, in a very fast changing world. So this has been really insightful. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really important work that you're doing, and also with the Nigeria PR report, which we're looking forward to getting the next edition next year. So thank you very much, and we'll continue just having that discussion online under the hashtag ACW Insights. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to just tweet using the hashtag, and we can continue this conversation online. The video is available live on Facebook, and so you can also tune in there just to get recaps. Thank you so much, Ayeni. This has been really amazing.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope we can continue to work together to build the industry that we desire.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.